Hi, welcome back to the podcast. We still don't have a name, but we're going to try to have one ready for next week.
We're working
Um,
on it.
yeah, just as a quick update, Mikey and I have decided to sort of split the focus of the podcast. So before we were doing the MMA breakdowns, or well, not currently, but we were planning on doing MMA breakdowns, uh, pre-fight analysis and post-fight, or pre-fight predictions and post-fight analysis. And then also have health, fitness, nutrition all together. But now we've decided to split that into two different podcasts just to sort of help focus them a little bit better.
Yeah. We couldn't find a way that would allow them to gel together properly so that we could kind of flow seamlessly between them.
Yeah,
So,
and that was part of the problem why or that was part of the issue for us coming up with a name for the podcast as well. Because I can't really think of a name that hits them both in a way that sort of does them justice.
doesn't sound terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So we're going to do this one and an MMA one, and hopefully throughout time, what will probably happen is that they'll end up blending together a little bit anyway. But we plan to keep them separate.
So continuing on from last time, we were talking about supplements. We were supposed to talk about supplements. I know we talked briefly about supplements, and I kind of derailed it and turned it more into a conversation about diet. Um, yeah, yeah, that'll probably happen again today because we're going to be talking about protein. Well, last time it was vitamins. This time it'll be more protein, creatine, pre-workout, that kind of stuff that you do for your training, rather than just general health and well-being. And we're also going to talk about training, the kind of training that we're doing at the minute, and just our opinion or thoughts on different training methods and types and stuff like that.
Yeah. Um, as we've said before, Dan and I have lived together for several years, so I know how far we can get off track. We've had
Yeah,
many conversations that have started. Oh, this is important. Let's focus on this, and within 10 minutes, we're in Neverland.
10 seconds.
Straight out the window.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I am trying to rein him in, and I hope if I do the same thing and go off, he tries to rein me back to the
yeah,
topic on point.
yeah. So whey protein.
Whey protein.
Yeah, your thoughts?
I'm not really a believer in protein shakes.
Okay.
I know obviously whey protein isn't specifically protein shakes. It's not developed for shakes. Get it in loads of different things, like Milky Bars or
Yeah,
Milky Ways. Yeah. Um. Uh. It's a derivative of milk, isn't it?
yeah. It's one of the offshoot products whenever you make cheese.
Cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, so during the cheese making process, you add an enzyme into the milk, and then that breaks the cheese down into its curds, and then the whey is taken out and then further filtered,
Okay.
and then that's how you get because you get whey isolates. So you have certain
Yeah.
concentrations of whey, and that's a pure protein. You also get casein proteins, which is a type of whey protein, but it's more of a slow release thing. But we'll
Okay.
also be talking about vegan proteins as well, and why I don't think you should take those ones. But the main focus will be whey protein.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the main case where you will hear about whey protein is through protein shakes.
Yeah.
Generally, I'm not a big believer in protein shakes.
Hmm.
I know whenever you used to train, whenever we lived in the same house, you would sometimes be taking maybe, I don't know, 4 protein shakes a day.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I've
and I try to get you on them as well.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah.
been. I've tried them.
Hmm.
Uh, I can't stomach them. I
Yeah.
just Whenever I drink them, I just feel like I need to throw up. I mean, like I can't drink milkshakes either, so I should have known. 'Cause I
Yeah,
drink
just a
them.
dairy thing for you.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's the consistency. I
Yeah.
get through half a shake and I physically can't drink anymore. Like
Mm.
my throat's like, nah, I'm closing, bro. I'm done. So uh, yeah, I've never been. That could be down to my personal experience, but I've never been a big believer in them. I've always thought more, if you're training and your diet is correct, you shouldn't really need a protein shake. The biggest exception to that in my mind, something that would be fine, would be you've just trained and you've just got in the door home, or you've gone to the changing room, you've got your stuff, and you have a protein shake sitting there, and you take it, then get your proteins on board straight away. Apart from that, like, I know a lot of people that take a protein shake in the morning, then one at lunch, then one at dinner, then one before they go to bed.
Yeah.
For me, I wouldn't be able to leave the house. I would have the
No.
worst bubble gut ever.
Oh yeah, no, and that's where I ended up. I
I
was
wouldn't
taking
be able to go
protein
to
shakes
work.
constantly. Yeah. I was doing, or I was, this was part of my, like I think we mentioned before, I've tried so many different diets, and this was part of my bodybuilder diet phase. And it was recommended that I drink a lot of protein shakes. So I was trying to get like 200 grams a day, and I wasn't eating an awful lot of meat and protein. So I had to get it in through the shakes. Um, I did get results, but I had a lot of health issues regarding digestion with it as well. And
Yeah.
so my opinion of protein supplements now has kind of switched. I used to think there was nothing wrong with them. Now I would prefer not to take them.
Hmm.
I don't think there's inherently anything wrong with taking them. There's a lot of studies out on that at the whey protein, especially. I think it's a very clean, complete source, which is absolutely fine. It's the other stuff that they put in the powders as well, you know, like the artificial sweeteners and the flavors and all the stabilizers, and I don't think any of that's healthy. But as far as the whey part is concerned, I don't really have an issue with it. I would prefer not to take it, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend other people to drink it. But if you want to drink it, that's fine.
Uh, so when was the last time you were taking protein shakes?
The last time I had a protein shake, oh yeah, the last time I had a protein shake was like I think 2 years ago. I this or
That was while you were vegetarian.
Yeah, well, I was a vegetarian. But it wasn't a whey protein shake. It was a vegan protein shake, and it was the most disgusting thing I had ever had. It's I don't want to drop the brand, but it's a very popular brand. It's a soy pea protein split isolate. Um,
Is it your
I
regular brand you used to buy from?
No,
No,
I
okay.
bought this one because I was doing research into fermented proteins.
Yeah.
I got into fermentation a long time ago, and I saw that the fermented plant-based proteins, the research looked promising on it. Again, we can go into biases and research with that one. I don't believe that they're a good protein anymore. I don't think you should be taking any kind of soy product. But whenever I had this one, it instantly went through me. It was like drinking sand. That it didn't mix very well. The taste was terrible, and then it was almost immediate that I ended up with digestive issues. I had a lot of inflammation, and then it just wasn't nice the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to drink more of it, and then it just didn't agree with me.
Hmm.
So I had to throw it away. Very expensive as well. That's another thing I don't like about protein powders, because they're quite popular. They're getting more and more expensive.
Yeah. No, that's true. Because even whenever we were buying protein powders together, because I tried a few to see if there was one that I could stomach.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, even then, even whenever we were buying the cheap ones,
Hmm.
they were still expensive enough.
Yeah.
We were talking 30 quid a tub,
Yeah. And then depending on the servings, that you get out of it,
and
not really worth the time.
yeah, and they were cheap ones. They were like
Yeah.
buy one get one half price.
Yeah. Well, if the expensive ones make you feel bad, you can
Yeah,
only expect the cheap ones to do the same thing.
yeah,
Like we got a few. Like yeah. Again, I don't want to not name the brands, but uh, I'm having horrible flashbacks.
I know.
Horrible.
That
Yeah.
salted caramel one.
Yeah. No.
Oh God.
The
Oh
strawberry
God.
ones.
I never liked the strawberry ones. The
No.
only strawberry protein shake I had was actually the first one I ever got. And believe it or not, I managed to get through almost the entire tub.
Hmm.
No, it wasn't like one of the big, like with the handle now, you know. It was like a
Yeah.
smaller tub. It was probably about that size. One you could put in your bag and make your shake up. And it was a milk and eggs protein shake, which
Yeah. Oh, I
was,
remember that one.
yeah, basically
Yeah.
designed for someone who's starting out, working out, someone who's
Dairy
small and
allergies, that kind of
skinny.
thing.
Um, I don't think it did any. anything for me, to be honest. And I was taking it every time I worked out and whatever.
Hmm.
But I don't think really it had any benefit on me whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I think our official stance on supplements in general would be that the supplement is what it is. It's a supplement. It's the supplement which you can't get in your normal diet.
Yeah,
And I believe you should try to get everything in your normal diet anyway.
yeah.
The only reason you would take whey protein is because you're not getting enough protein in your diet.
Mhm.
And since I'm more of an advocate of the carnivore diet, or the Weston A. Price diet, which advocates for more meat products in your diet, I get all the protein I need, so
Yeah,
I don't need to take the protein powders, and I feel much healthier for it. It's body can, there's no it because it's not processed. Protein powders are very highly processed.
yeah,
I just think you should stay away from them in general. But if you don't have any issues having them, you can take them, I suppose. But it's not something I would recommend.
yeah. I would agree with that completely. Uh, as I said, I've never personally seen much benefit from them. Um,
Yeah.
Protein bars as well.
No, I actually don't like protein bars as much anymore because most of them are going into vegan protein, so pea proteins and other things. And to me, they mess me up really bad.
They mess
And
me
then
up.
they put way too many sweeteners in them as well, and it's all chocolate, and
Yeah,
I don't see anything nutrition. And a lot of it is fortified as well with vitamins and minerals because uh, to come across as healthier. But like I said in the last one, your body can't absorb a lot of the artificial vitamins anyway, so they're
yeah,
really just expensive bars that uh, cause a lot of inflammation in your body, and you don't even process properly. And because they also have a lot of soy in them as well, you're getting phytoestrogens into your system, and it disrupts your hormones and a lot of other negative side effects to the body.
yeah.
And I used to be addicted to protein bars as well. Because again, I thought, well, if I was going to eat a chocolate bar, I might as well have a protein bar rather than a Mars bar or something else. But now I would rather the candy bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at least you know mostly what's in it. Chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate, caramel, sugar. I prefer sugar over soy and
Yeah,
unhealthy oils. A lot of them have like vegetable oils and stuff in them as well. I try to stay away from those.
yeah. Well, you know, I've never really been able to take protein bars. One, the taste just isn't great on them. There's always
Yeah.
like
A chalky kind of.
yeah, chalky, sandy kind of
Hmm.
um dull taste to them.
Yeah.
Uh, some of them are okay. Don't get me wrong. Some of them do taste fine. Some of them are okay, but as a whole, most of them are fairly bland and tasteless, cardboardy. But on top of that, anytime I've eaten them, like the ones they sell in the Spar, I can't remember the name of the brand. They're like one of the biggest brands here.
Sure. Smith bars, something like that.
Hmm?
Oh no, PhD.
No,
Oh no, I don't
I
want to
have
start
tried
naming brands actually.
the PhD ones are actually nice.
No, they're the ones I hate the most.
Are they? I've
Yeah,
had
they're the ones that are going vegan.
I think I've only had the one flavor of them, but the one I had was quite nice.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember whenever I was working with John, who was my PT,
Yeah.
there was a few times like after my session would be his lunchtime, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm going around here. Do you want to come with me?" So we would go and we would get some lunch and get a couple of protein bars. And like after a hard session or whatever, it's like, yeah, get that protein bar, boom. And uh, John as well, he's kind of similar to us. He thinks that supplements are okay if you can't find it in your diet. He never, I don't think he ever once said to me, "Oh, you need to be taking protein powder. You need to be taking this. You need to be taking that." He was always very much track your macros,
Yeah.
track your calories, and make sure everything that's going into your body is good.
Well, that actually leads into something I wanted to say before, which is I think people need to change their relationship with food in a general way. They need to look more at the nutritional aspect of it, properly,
Yeah,
rather than just believing what the bar the wrapper says itself. If the wrapper says it's healthy, doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. Just because the carb or the calorie count is low and the macronutrients look right doesn't mean it's healthy for you, because it's missing a lot of micronutrients. Plus, you don't know how certain ingredients in it actually work in the body. So, like I was saying about soy, you'll notice that everything has soy lecithin in it.
Mm-hmm.
So, chocolate, it's an emulsifier for chocolate. So almost every single, it's a low amount, but every single bar of chocolate almost has soy lecithin in it. But soy is only healthy for you if it's been fermented. But it's never prepared that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're eating these healthy, nutritious bars, fine, you'll get your macronutrients. You're going to get the protein that you were looking for. You're going to get the carbohydrate and fat ratio that you're looking for, but you're not going to get all of the other micronutrients that you need to be healthy. So as far as I'm concerned, those things aren't really worth eating.
Yeah.
In that sort of way.
So just to make sure, so I understand, what you're saying is it might have this on the label, and it might say, it's got this protein and it's got this fat and it's got a specific protein and specific fat in it, but your body can't absorb those. Okay, properly.
A good example would be you've seen the traffic light system on packaged goods, yeah. So it tells you.
As a general rule of thumb, traffic light is okay.
See, I was doing
the general people that wouldn't know anything.
It's because it's misleading. It is misleading though, because when I was doing my pharmacy tech course, we had a part of nutrition, and then the teacher that was teaching it commented saying that as long as it's all green, it's good to go, and that's not true. So I got a pack of bread, and I would never eat this bread. I make my own bread. You look at it and goes, okay, everything is green on the front of this. You turn it around, you look at the ingredients. There's like 13 different ingredients. Bread doesn't need 13 different ingredients. Yeah. It's just bread. It needs water, flour, and salt. That's all it needs.
Yeah.
So it's got 4 different types of sugar in it, all labeled differently. There's no need for that.
Yeah.
This bread is not healthy. And then I find as well, because it's not fermented sourdough bread, that anytime I eat that, I get inflammation. I get bloating in my gut. I don't process that well, but when I have my own bread, I'm absolutely fine.
Yeah.
So people are looking at this thing saying, oh, well, the government says it's good. I think the dietary guidelines are out of date and need to be revised, because they're behind current dietary research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although that's not to say anything about the benefits of mass-produced bread, because I mean it saved the population basically.
How?
Well, I mean, back whenever everyone was starving to death, and then bread started being mass-produced, became a staple for everyone to be able to access easily. Although I suppose most people were making their own breads back then.
Yeah.
But I know here in Ireland it would have been a lot of I can't remember what the word for it was, but the old kinds of breads were basically zero nutritional value. It was like eating a rock.
No, I make traditional bread. So the bread I make is ancient bread. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Sourdough bread is the original bread, because yeast was only cultivated after beer making. So they used to use barm, I think it was called. It was a product for it's a beer yeast. Yeah. So once you make once you make beer, you get the barm from that, and then you use that in your bread making, and then they've found a way to refine actual baker's yeast.
Yeah.
Which the original way was to make your own sourdough starter. My girlfriend and I have a website where we actually have, if people are interested, how to make your own sourdough starter from scratch, so you don't need to buy any more yeast.
Plug it.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's interested, I'll tag it in. But I made my own sourdough yeast. It was 2 years ago, actually, today, that I made my own.
Happy anniversary for bread making.
Yeah. I lost my point.
Oh, sorry. Well, the only thing I have to base where I'm coming from on is videos I've seen surrounding bread, which probably would have been about 2 years ago as well. I remember having that. We had like a really coincidental moment where I was like, oh, I was watching this video and it was really interesting. and you were like, I watched that too. When did you see it? And I was like, 2 days ago. You were like, me too.
Okay.
And then I watched this, and we were watching kind of like the same train of thought where
Hmm.
regarding bread making, and that's where I'm basing what I'm saying off. Is one of the guys who was like a bread historian had
Okay. Yeah,
said
that's a thing.
that in like Ireland and England there was obviously a major part of the population who were on they were starving. They were starving to death, and
Mhm.
all they had to eat was bread that wasn't even really by today's standards bread.
Okay, yeah. So that
Yeah.
just reminded me of what my point was. Bread itself doesn't really have any nutritional value. Again, it's essentially just a micronutrient or a macronutrient.
Yeah.
So bread will keep you alive, but it
Hmm.
won't keep you healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need to live, eating bread is fine, but you're going to find that you're going to get a lot of or vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, especially if you're eating bread that isn't prepared properly. Because gluten. We touched on this before about different anti-nutrients in foods.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, wheat and grains and stuff like that contain something called phytic acid, so phytates, and they bind themselves to calcium and other different minerals in the body. So as you eat these breads that aren't properly treated, so if you want to get rid of, so say if you're eating a bowl of porridge and you want to get rid of the phytates in the porridge, again, this is something that people eat wrong as well. They don't prepare them properly. You're supposed to soak them for 12 to 24 hours before you eat them. The longer you soak them, the more of the phytic acid gets dispersed in it. And then once you apply heat, so once you cook it, you destroy more of it. So your body can actually process the foods or the oats
Hmm.
better than it could before. And it stops any kind of mineral leaching that could happen in the body. So if it hasn't been prepared that way, I've seen people just boil water, pour it over the oats, and then eat it straight away. So the phytic acid content in it is still quite high. So as it works through your digestive system, it actually strips out minerals that you would need,
Hmm.
and it binds to them, and then you just excrete it. So you end up with horrible deficiencies.
So, do you think that's where overnight oats came from? Because obviously, uh, any diet you look at now that is talking about a healthy training diet, all of them, all like everyone I've seen in the past 4 years have said one of if you're hungry, you need to stack your breakfast in the morning, overnight oats.
Yeah, well, overnight oats would be okay. Again, they don't people don't tend to heat it after. The heating is an important step to it as well. In terms of sourdough bread, it's actually the fermentation that eliminates pretty much all of it. But when it comes to oats, it's good to soak and then heat. The problem is that nobody just eats the oats in overnight oats. They add things to it. So they add lots of nuts and they add seeds and they add other things that the body can't
Yeah.
tolerate. So it's just it's kind of like muesli as well. I used to love uh, muesli and granola, but then I
I
found out
Whenever I
that
was a kid, I used to love muesli.
yeah,
Not as much as porridge. I had porridge every single morning before I went to school, but
yeah, and a lot of people eat it raw. So it's oats, nuts, seeds, dried fruit, so just sugar, pure sugar, tons and tons of fiber, more than you need. Um, and then you're eating that, and then it's stripping out all of the nutrients in your body, and then you end up having the sugar spike, and then you crash, and then you're tired throughout the day.
yeah.
But they tell you it's a healthy thing to eat.
Hmm. Well, so from what I'm gathering from what you're saying is, if you're training and you're wanting to stay healthy, you should stay away from bread.
No, you can have
That's what
bread
I'm
again.
hearing. That's
Yeah,
what you said. Has
yeah,
no nutritional value.
yeah. Not really. If you want to get your carbs up, it's fine. And if you can handle gluten, it's okay. I would recommend sourdough bread, proper homemade sourdough bread,
Yeah.
over store bought bread,
Yeah.
because then you won't have any of the inflammation issues. Uh, Inflammation is quite bad. Digestive inflammation and things like that.
Yeah.
Uh, I would have a slice of bread, a day, maybe
How
with other stuff.
how much do you think bread contributes to joint inflammation,
It
if at
depends
all?
on your tolerances. If you can't tolerate wheat, then
Yeah.
it's an issue. A lot of autoimmune conditions. If it, you can fix a lot of autoimmune issues by eliminating certain things out of your diet. People with celiac, there would be a more extreme case where they can't tolerate any form of gluten. Most people can tolerate gluten, and very few people can actually tolerate to the point where it has no negative effect.
Yeah.
But even I'm one of I'm a person that can tolerate gluten, but there's still negative side effects. There's a graph, if I can remember sometime. I need to probably put that in somewhere, but it showed even if you're a healthy person, it does have a negative effect on your health.
Yeah.
So I would try to avoid it.
Um. Well, it's
But the good thing about sourdough bread is that the lacto fermentation process actually eats up a lot of the gluten. So again, that's why people with digestive issues
go
tend
for
to,
sourdough.
yeah.
I remember seeing a thing once about, I forget where I was going with that. I went to say it and then it just gone. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on to
It
another
just
one.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. We'll move on to just briefly touch on creatine as well,
Yeah.
because that's another one of the ones that it's commonly taken,
Yeah.
before workouts and things.
I've never been a fan of creatine. I've always thought it's a bit of a it was a bit of a marketing gimmick.
Hmm.
I think you've changed your thoughts on it once or twice, maybe in the past.
Yeah, it depends on what your goal is, whether or
Yeah.
not you should take creatine. Again, I personally don't think you should. If you have a proper diet, you don't need the creatine. Creatine
Mhm.
is found in muscle meat, so as long as you eat meat, you're fine.
Yeah.
You'll get the creatine that you need.
One of the first, not the first time, but one of the first times I heard of someone that was actively taking creatine. Maybe you remember this was
Yeah, I have.
yeah. You think
Yeah,
it's okay for me to tell this story?
he's not gonna watch it. Well, I wouldn't say his name.
I'm not gonna. I don't even remember his name.
Yeah. Okay.
So no risk of that.
Yeah.
So basically, we were at jiu-jitsu one day, and this guy was saying, I think it was the competition. Was it the first competition we did?
Yeah. First competition.
Yeah, and he was saying, "Oh, I really want to compete. I would love to compete. But I want to get heavier first."
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. What weight class are you wanting to fight?" And he goes, "Well, I'm about 70 kilos now. I would like to fight above 80." And I said, "Oh, you don't look 70 kilos. You're
He's
quite
taller than
slim."
me.
He is, yeah, but he's
Yeah.
he's slim.
Hmm.
And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Uh, it's going to be hard for you to put on that much weight." And he says, "No, it's fine. I just take like creatine 5 times a day, and I go for runs. I go for
Yeah.
5 or 10K runs." And I
Yeah.
just looked at him like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I gain weight every time I go for a run." And I was like,
Yeah.
no,
You know what creatine does,
that's
right?
um, yeah, it helps the water in your muscles or something. No, maybe I'm completely wrong. It's something
Yeah.
to do
No.
with water.
No.
No, okay, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of something completely
Sorry.
different then. See,
Yeah. No. Creatine
because
creatine has an issue. It's one of the side effects of creatine that can cause you to retain water.
that's what I was
So
thinking.
yeah, but creatine is an energy source.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
um,
So what happens is you have the ATP system in which energy system in the body, which ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate.
I'll never
And
remember that.
yeah, well, you don't need to. It's just the ATP system. So creatine has one of the phosphates. So as when you're doing quick burst training, so if you're doing explosive weight training or sprints or something like that, your body works in the ATP zone, and then after that you work or you're in the aerobic zone, and then you're in the anaerobic zone. So
Yep.
aerobic with air, anaerobic without air. So the ATP system is the only energy system in the body that has absolutely no negative side effect whatsoever or waste products whatsoever. So it's just pure energy that you have. Aerobic, you need oxygen, and that creates carbon dioxide, and then you have the anaerobic, which is without oxygen, and that causes lactic acid buildup.
Hmm.
So what happens with the ATP system is when you take on creatine, the creatine lends one of the phosphates to the adenosine triphosphate. So as it burns, one of the phosphates breaks off, and then that's what gives you the energy. And then the creatine comes in, turns that diphosphate back into a triphosphate, so you have more energy to use. But it's literally, it only accounts for literally seconds.
Yeah,
So if you're doing any kind of endurance training,
yeah,
taking creatine defeats the purpose, and that's what this guy was doing. He
yeah,
was going for long runs, not sprints, but long runs, and saying that the creatines are giving him any kind of
Benefit.
noticeable
Yeah.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anyone going on a run to gain weight.
No.
The only way that could
Like
possibly
sprints maybe
happen,
for your thighs, but
I was about to say, the only way that could possibly happen is if your legs have next to no muscle on them and you're
mhm.
getting massive gains from every run. You're
Yeah, and he
having to
was
take like a
taking
2 week
creatine
break between
specifically for
runs
gains.
because your legs are that sore.
Yeah.
They're
And because
going
he was
from
taking it specifically
this
for
to
gains, it
this
makes no
every
sense
yeah.
because it's
Um
not a protein. You can't build muscle on creatine.
yeah.
But speaking of building muscle, that segues us over to training.
Yeah. Again, I have a habit of jumbling things up in my brain. So sometimes I do know things and sometimes I think I know things. And sometimes I do know it and I know something else and they completely switch places.
Trying to
So
keep on track of that though.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't keep on track of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it was something to do with water. And it was literally just because like you said, it creates
It's a side effect of
yeah.
that causes water retention in the muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my brain just tracked straight to it was something
Yeah,
to
I
do
think
with
that's why
water
bodybuilders
retention.
cycle through that. So they
Yeah.
would have a creatine cycle and then get off it because they don't want to. They want to look shredded for their shows.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
suppose it helps with a cut then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you wanted to talk about our training methods, things we like to do, things we're maybe currently doing.
Yeah. So what you were saying before? I think in a private conversation we were having about resistance training, and I was saying how there's no negative to resistance training, and you disagreed.
Yeah. Well, we kind of had the same point, but just different ways of getting to that point.
Okay.
So
Because you said though that you weren't a big fan of resistance training.
I am and I aren't.
Amped aren't.
Yeah.
I am and
Uh,
am not.
yeah. So I've done plenty of resistance training at the gym myself, obviously.
Mhm.
Um, my problem is for the general public, most people, especially guys, will go to the gym and they'll go, okay, last week I lifted 60 kilos. This week I'm going to try 120 kilos. I lifted 120 kilos last week. Now, oh, that was easy for me. Now I'm going to try 180 kilos. And they go up in these big jumps. So they're going to the gym for maybe a month. And in that time, they've accelerated from I don't know what I'm doing to wow, that's easy. And lifting as heavy as they possibly can and injuring themselves and then not going back to the gym for another 2 years because they're recovering from an injury.
Yeah, the body's a master of compensation. So if you have a weak muscle somewhere, another muscle is going to fix that for you. So you end up injuring. If you don't have good form, you end up injuring a supporting
Mm-hmm.
muscle.
Yeah. So
But
that would
I think that you've mixed up what resistance training is because you're talking about weight training specifically. So this is why I thought it'd be
well
good to talk about it.
well not
Because
not
resistance
exactly. There's
training
just
is
different
literally
ways
just
to
training
resistance
against.
train. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's weight training, which is one. It's the most popular method, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to
Yeah.
bodybuilders and stuff like that. But then you also
That's
have
that's why I talked about that one specifically because it is
yeah,
the most popular.
yeah, and then there's body weight training. That is a form of resistance training.
Mm-hmm.
Both you and I are a big fan of body weight training.
Yep.
Um, we have isometric training. That's a type of resistance.
Keep moving away from my mic, and then I keep seeing it, and I'm like, wow, I'm really far away.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what do you think about isometrics?
Um,
I know that's a big thing. Steve Maxwell is a big advocate for isometrics.
um,
So would you be able to explain what an isometric is?
no, not
No.
right now, no.
Okay, sorry. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like
So it's a type of
I know
contraction.
I know as soon as you say it, I'm gonna be like, of course, but
Yeah,
right now, brain fog.
that's okay. So you have three types of contraction that your muscles can make. You have a concentric contraction, an eccentric contraction, and isometric contraction. So
Yeah.
concentric is the ability to pull in, eccentric is to extend, and then isometric is to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, And it was isometric training you were talking about there.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that's the one where you hold a position. Bruce Lee, I think, was a big fan of as well, where you just kind of
it
squeeze
was,
and tense
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah. I mean,
So there's two types of that.
it's a very traditional martial arts style of training.
Uh-huh.
Um, Obviously, like the Karate Kid and everything, you know, holding a pose, um, a pose that's hard to hold. You know, like you've done it before. You know,
Hmm.
if you hold a squat and you're told hold that squat for 5 minutes and you're, you know, like hips level with your knees, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, ask anyone that does wall sits on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And wall sits
Uh,
are an aid to that position. It's not the easiest thing to do.
no.
Um,
That would be an example of a yielding isometric. So you have two types of isometric training as well. You have yielding and overcoming.
yeah.
So yielding would be that you have a force being applied upon you that you need to resist.
Uh-huh.
And then overcoming is a force that you're applying on something that can't move.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is another type that again Steve Maxwell is a very big advocate for.
Yeah, he does a
Um,
lot of overcoming isometrics training.
yeah. One I do like in particular, and it's one he showed to help people who can't do pull-ups,
Hmm.
was lowering. And this isn't actually isometric, I guess, but
That's
it's
concentric or eccentric.
yeah, it's uh, the timed ones.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah. So
but
eccentric contraction where you just slowly lower yourself.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you're in the pull up, up, and you're just over as long as you can make it, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute,
Hmm.
gradually lowering yourself down.
Yeah, it's good for strength training.
And I thought that one was really good, specifically for someone that can't do pull ups.
Hmm.
I like doing pull ups. We've done plenty of pull ups in the past, pull
Yeah,
up
I'm not
challenges
very
and
good
all
at them.
kinds of stuff. You're pretty good at them.
No, I'm good at chin ups.
Yeah. Um, and I thought that was good. The some of the leg stuff is. I mean, the guy's been training for what 60 years, 70 years. He
Yeah,
knows
70 years. He's been
what
training
age
for
is he? I
70 years.
suppose he's
I
in his
think he's
seventies.
in
Is
his
he?
60s.
He's in his 60s. Yeah,
Yeah,
so 50 years. It's a
yeah,
long time anyway. You know, the stuff that he's picked out that works for him maybe won't work for everyone.
yeah.
Works for me whenever I do that stuff. I feel it.
Well, what kind of training are you actually doing at the minute? I noticed on Facebook you were doing some stretching.
Yeah, at the minute I'm not doing much in terms of strength or anything. Uh, I'm doing so I've the pull up bar down in the dining room, and I do some
Yeah.
pull ups every day. I do some push ups. I was actually streaming World of Warcraft the other day, and I had to do burpees every time I died. That didn't go well. We died. I died something like 5 times within like 5 minutes.
Burpees, what did you have to do?
Hmm.
How many burpees did you have to do?
10 each death.
10 each time.
I had
A lot of
to,
burpees.
yeah, I had to do like a set of like 50 or 60 burpees in one go,
Okay.
which was brutal because burpees is the only exercise that has ever made me throw up.
Yeah, that's why they call burpees.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a little bit of burpees.
No,
Uh,
but do you have a specific plan for your training at the minute
right
though,
now
or are you
I'm
trying to
not.
come up with one?
Yeah, right now I'm not following a set training plan or anything. Like I said, I'm just doing some pull ups, some push ups, some cardio stuff. Uh, every day whenever I get up, I'll go out the back into the sun because it's sunny at the minute, which is a massive change,
Yeah.
and I'll do shadow boxing for 10 or 20 minutes. Um, and then besides that, just stretching because being stuck indoors, stuck in quarantine, sitting around at the computer watching TV, all the rest of it, my hips are just getting. Sorry,
Playing World of Warcraft.
playing World of Warcraft exactly. My hips are getting to disability levels um
Pain.
not pain,
Discomfort. Tightness.
tightness. Yeah,
Yeah. Debilitating tightness.
yeah. my mobility is going down and down right now because I'm obviously used to 5-6 days a week, either training or teaching. And
Yeah,
whenever you're teaching,
and
you're still,
specifically jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you're teaching, you're still getting uh a level of workout, right?
Hmm.
It's not anything hard. If you're teaching and by the end of your teaching session you're physically fatigued, you're getting muscle soreness and everything, then you might need to look at your fitness.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, it is a lot of squatting, and it depends on how involved you are as a coach as well. I've seen a lot of coaches that just stand off the side of the mats and just
but
shout instructions rather than actually
yeah, yeah.
contribute.
I tend to get quite involved, and
Hmm.
you know, one thing I would actually like to point out is for anyone that's a PT or taught uh PE or something physical. The one thing I find, if I'm taking part in the class, it always seems a lot harder than if I'm teaching, and I think that's like a mental thing.
Hmm.
Whereas whenever I'm teaching the class, I'm like, I don't feel very tired as much.
Well, when you're
Um,
taking part in the class, I think it could be because you're focused on the actual training side of it, so you could be going a little bit harder than you would if you're teaching. When you're
well,
teaching, you're just
whenever I
just
teach,
kind of
yeah, whenever I teach the adults, I do actually go quite hard to show that everything, like the correct motions and the correct movements and everything. And I mean, like for the warm up and for the initial strength and cardio part of the class.
yeah.
Now, in saying that, I tend to break off and do a lot of pad work, a lot of focus pads, a lot of kick pads, and things like that, which I don't
Yeah.
take part on. And generally, that's where my energy levels start to dip. So,
Yeah, when it comes to high intensity
yeah, particularly
sort of
kicks.
cardio training.
Kicks. I could be here, I could be bouncing, and then I
Hmm.
do kicks, and I'm here, and this is my floor.
Yeah.
After 30 seconds of kicks, I don't know. Is that the same for you?
I haven't done any of that kind of training in a while. I really need to, well, once the quarantine's over, I really need to start training again in
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu. Most of the stuff I've been doing at home, I'm doing 3 different training things at the minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned, I think in the first podcast, when you asked about training, I'm doing Athlete Next sort of size program. I'm trying to get stronger and bigger at the same time.
Yeah.
And then recently, over the past week, I've started doing a body weight routine. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing some calisthenics, push-ups, pull-ups, handstands, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also doing some corrective exercises to fix my posture
Mm-hmm.
because at work I've been forced to dispense all day,
Yeah. You've
essentially
said
in an
before you're
isolator.
in this
Yeah, and
kind of
I'm in
position.
this sort of
Yeah.
hunch position, so I'm retraining my shoulders to to pin back, keep my chest up,
Yeah.
not have my head nerd necked forward, and
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of issues with my left shoulder because of it, with everything being out of alignment. So I'm going through doing corrective training at the
Yeah.
moment every day.
That's something I should probably work on as well because um, I'm quite asymmetric.
Hmm.
Um, and let me think, which one is it? My right shoulder, I believe, is lower than my left, and it didn't used to be. It used to be pretty much exactly even, and I think part of it is actually martial arts training. You're always because we fight in a left fighting stance, in a left
Yeah.
stance, and an orthodox stance.
Uh-huh.
And I think partially because your left arm's forward, and you're keeping that left shoulder high to cover the jawline.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. Personally,
No, I would actually agree with
it could
that.
have
I
maybe
thought
just
for
been,
years
yeah,
that there's an issue with our style of jiu-jitsu where we only teach you how to throw from one side, which is typically the right side.
yeah,
So you have the only time that you start doing the symmetrical throws when you're doing left side and right side is after you hit black belt. So that's 3.5 years of training minimum.
yeah,
Um, and you're constantly pulling with the left hand and then pushing with the right arm. So you're overdeveloping your lat and your bicep on the left side, and then you're overdeveloping your shoulder and tricep on the other side. So you're
Also,
creating this
also your
pull.
core.
Yeah, and the core as well, because you're pulling these down, and this one's constantly in a stretch position. So the first time I went into a symmetrical throw, a hip throw that I've always done, I managed to pull my back
Hmm.
because my body just wasn't used to moving the other direction.
Yeah. I noticed a few years into training that I had actually a bit of definite. I've never had abs. I've never been able to get abs, no matter how hard I worked on my core or how clean I was eating. Um, and some people just don't develop visible abs, and I guess that's me. Uh,
Training doesn't make you show your abs. If you want to see abs, it's all diet.
um, but I did notice that I had a little bit of definition on my right side
Uh-huh.
and none on my left. It's better now, but it's still fairly the same. I've always had an underdeveloped core. That's why for a while I worked on it um a lot. We would do like a 20-minute core blast at the end of every workout for a while. Uh, but like you were saying, you would have your left side would have developed bicep and lat, and your right would be the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's all the pulling muscles, and then the other one's all the pushing muscles.
yeah.
Um, what about flexibility and mobility?
So,
Do you know the difference?
oh yeah, yeah. Flexibility is assisted, how far you can go. Mobility is on your own, how far you can hold, how much you can hold. So, for example, if you were to push my arm and it could go to here, and then on my own, if I was to lift it, it only went to here.
To make it more specific. Um,
That's it.
yeah.
Same with anything to do with any of this stuff. You're compared to me, you're an expert, and I'm just like I'm a guy that's kind of
Learning
logging in.
passively.
Yeah, I know some stuff. I think I know some stuff. A lot of stuff I don't know. So
Well, this is part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up,
yeah,
because a lot of people don't actually understand the difference between flexibility training or flexibility and mobility.
yeah,
Flexibility is the ability for the muscles to lengthen.
yep.
So that would be the stretching element of it. And mobility is the ability of the joint to move actively through a range of motion.
Okay,
So
Mr. Scientist.
yeah, if you have poor flexibility, that limits the range of motion that the joint can perform. So improving flexibility can help mobility, but improve, they're not necessarily connected.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So mobility is flexibility through a range of motion,
Mm-hmm.
and flexibility is just the muscle's ability to stretch. So they're different because you're having tight hip issues. So that would be a restriction in that would be your muscles restricting the ability for your hip to move. So by stretching out those muscles and getting them to relax more, you'll be able to have a wider range of motion in your hip, which helps with the mobility. And then strengthening comes along with mobility as well.
Yeah.
Whereas flexibility is just about relaxing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, stretching is the wrong way to put it. A lot of people think you actually have to pull the muscle. So when I said flexibility is the ability for the muscle to lengthen, that is the more correct term. I'm not pulling it to stretch it. I'm allowing it to relax and open up the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So there are different types of stretching, and I'm sure you know some of them because we do them in our warm-ups. So you would have the likes of dynamic stretching,
Mm-hmm.
static stretching, active stretching, ballistic stretching, myofascial release, and then we have PNF stretching, which is the one that is the most beneficial in my personal opinion when it comes to increasing flexibility, because it's the most effective one from what I've seen. And that PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation.
Exactly what I was about to ask.
Yeah. So that would be the contract relax method that I've been using for my own personal flexibility.
Yeah. Whenever I'm doing my own stretching, I tend to do something similar.
What do you mean? So you relax into it or what?
Yeah.
And then you contract against it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I
So
at the minute I'm doing a lot of like hip based stretches, obviously, because I said my hips are getting really tight. My hamstrings have always been really tight, so it's mostly
mhm.
leg focused and lower
Okay.
back. Um,
So when you say your hip specifically, what kind of motions you're doing for your hip? Because your hip is a ball socket joint, so there's a lot
yeah,
of ranges of motion that you can do. Is it your hip flexor,
I'm
or
not
any?
exactly sure.
Sometimes it could be glutes.
Yeah, I don't think it is. It's the front of my hip. It's kind of like in the groin area.
Okay.
Just like that crease in your leg that kind of comes around at the
Yeah.
groin.
So
Yeah,
more your hip flexor.
yeah. And it's just sometimes it's really tight. Like I go to move and I just can't move in a direction. I This only came about 2-3 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Never had it before. Don't know what it is. Uh, Stretching has been helping it though a lot. Uh, so I've been doing a lot of like lunging type stretches
Okay.
and just trying to ease into it, uh, push it to a point, ease off, relax, push deeper.
Well, just the thing that I wanted to say that might help, just so that you can have something to consider. Since I've been doing
Steroids.
my yeah, since I've been doing my own postural stuff,
Hmm.
so it's technically in order to strengthen the back heels or in order to get your posture right, you need to stretch the weak muscles or stretch the tight muscles and then strengthen the weaker muscles.
Hmm.
So if you want a more complete routine for helping your hips, you need to identify which muscles are tight and then which ones need or and which ones are weak so that you can strengthen the opposite side to pull it back. So in terms of my back, I have to stretch out the muscles in my thoracic area because they're too uh, sort of they're sort of tight pulling forward, so I need to inside the spine. So it's hard to show because I can't show you inside of my spine. But I need to try to
Where's my
pull that
knife?
out and push that up and force that up. So stretch those muscles that are actually pulling here,
Yeah.
and then I need to strengthen the opposing muscles around the shoulder joint, and then in the serratus muscles that go from underneath the scapula all the way around to the front.
Yeah. Um, Posture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying about your hips, it's probably good if you started doing or incorporating some glute exercises because they would be the antagonist muscles towards the front of the hip
Yeah.
because they're probably
So
weaker.
what kind of exercise would you suggest for that kind of
Glute bridges.
foot bridges?
Yeah, glute bridges are a good one. There's
Sexiest of all exercises.
yeah. So I would do weighted glute bridges. They help. Um, just
Well,
as a so whenever you're doing a set, say you would do your stretch and then flip over and do the strengthening on the other side.
yeah. Um, what about the foot bridge rotations? That's a good one.
Mm, if you want to, we're just
You
speaking
know the
specifically
one
for
I'm
that.
talking about, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So similar to a uh reversal to mount,
Uh-huh.
where your hips come up and then you're
Yeah,
leaning off to one side,
yeah,
as if you're getting someone out of mount.
yeah.
Um,
So just do that. If you want to do them, that's fine. I would just do the normal glute bridges. It's
yeah.
just as a thing to add to it.
I used to do glute bridges quite often, doing that and like weighted dips and things like that. Obviously,
Mhm.
dips aren't for your hips; they're for triceps. But
Yeah.
yeah, so you think I should do glute bridges mixed in with the stretching?
Um,
I'll
yeah,
try
just
that.
work the weaker muscles. So anything that is antagonistic to the muscle that you're trying to stretch, because at the minute they're too tight, so you need to strengthen the muscles that pull against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, just as an offshoot, well, it's not
Uh,
even an offshoot. It's come into my head. Have you partook in any of the challenges, the workout challenges that have come up over quarantine?
No,
No. Like
no.
There's one where you have to do a handstand against a wall and put a t-shirt on.
I've seen that one. I actually want to do that one. I was gonna actually maybe film that and challenge you.
Oh, I've already done it.
Oh, you've done it? You didn't challenge it? You didn't tag me in it?
No, it was in a group chat.
Okay.
I did that one. We've actually been doing, or we were a few weeks ago doing the Up Sally challenge.
Okay.
Um,
I know someone who can actually do that whole thing.
is it Pete?
Yep.
I
I
thought
watched
so.
him do it.
Yeah, I've never been able to do the whole thing. I've got over halfway. How long is that song again? I think it's like just under 4 minutes.
I have no idea. I can look it up. I just know I can only get about halfway.
I think, I think I've got about 3 minutes, roughly around there. Last time I did it, I got to about 2 minutes.
Example of my isometric strength not being as good as it could be. My concentric and eccentric are fine, but I can barely hold.
Yeah.
It's one thing that I need to work on.
Part of it's mental as well, because as soon as you start to think to yourself, "Oh God, I'm getting tired. Oh, I'm starting to shake. Oh crap, I'm gonna fall. Oh, I can't do this," then obviously your body reacts to that and says, "Oh, maybe we should stop." You look at me like a conspiracy theorist.
It is a painful thing.
Yeah.
It starts to burn all the stabilizing muscles, and all the supporting muscles start to light up.
Yeah. Um, mindset can make a crazy difference towards it though.
Yeah, no, it's something I really need to improve on. Like I can
Yeah.
train, but I don't know how hard I can train.
And that's like if you look at like the schools in America, the wrestling programs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those guys, whenever they start, obviously because they start so young, they've still got that oh, you can't beat me, like I can do anything
Mm-hmm.
mentality, which is great because they hammer that into them so as that they never let it go. Whereas most people, by the time they get to 15, 16, that's been completely beat out of them. You know, by people saying, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't." Oh, what's that? You're 14 and you're poor and your dream is to be what's it? Something you have to have a lot of money to do. A Formula One driver? Yeah, no, that's never going to happen. Sorry, what'd you say?
Helicopter pilot. I was
Helicopter
looking
pilot?
into getting one of those licenses.
I was actually going to say a helicopter pilot.
Yeah, no, it's
know,
ridiculous. I'd love to learn how to fly a
yeah,
helicopter, but it's ridiculous how much it costs just to
yeah.
get a license.
People saying that kind of stuff.
Oh, I come from a long line of quitters. That could be why my isometrics suck.
Yeah.
I come from a proud line of quitters.
This is my opinion, by the way. It's not I'm not backing it up with any graphs or any studies. This is what I've witnessed. Is a lot of people just get that mentality beat out of them. Like you can ask people I went to primary school with. I was by far the smallest person there, and it didn't matter what we were doing. I always believed I could beat the other people at it.
Did you?
Sometimes, yeah. Up until about P6, every year I won 100 meters race, while being only 3/4 of the size of the other guys.
Lighter.
Yeah, and then
those
other
weight to shift.
Yeah, then those other guys' legs became pretty much the height of me, and I was still coming in second and third. You know, the high jump I did it in whenever I was in third year, and whenever I was in third year, I was still only the height of the smallest first year, and I came in fourth against the guy that went on to actually break a Northern Irish high jump record at the I don't know what they're called. I can't remember what they're called. It's like the Northern Irish Athletic Games or whatever it is.
NESPA, I can't remember.
Yeah.
NEPSIS.
Yeah. So I had that mentality, and somewhere along the line, I lost it. And I know other people that's happened to as well. So I think mentality is a big part of training. if I had started martial arts whenever I was 12, I reckon, you know, I'd be the kind of person that would just walk in the punches and go, I don't care. Try and knock me out. I'm coming for you first. Instead of being more calculated. So in a way, it's a good thing. In a way, it's a bad thing because I don't believe I can train as hard as I possibly could have been able to.
With the kids thing, I find that people who go into martial arts as adults have a better mentality than the kids because the kids tend to go because you're told to go. The ones that stick at it, I'd say are fine, but adults tend to have a bit more because they understand the benefit of it and that's why they're going.
Yeah. Well, adults want to go, whereas you're right in saying a lot of kids are forced to go.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever would have been forced to go as a child. I did briefly do jiu-jitsu whenever I was about 6 or 7. And I loved it, and it was my parents made me stop because they didn't have enough money to keep going.
So it's expensive, but it does make a difference whenever you're
I don't
having
think
to pay it out over time.
I don't think I would have ever needed to be forced to go. But that's just because I was completely obsessed with Hong Kong Fu and other martial arts things.
Yeah.
You know?
Mystic Knights of Tir na nog.
Yeah, pretty much so. Fantastic. It wasn't really. It was basically Irish Power Rangers.
Yeah, I loved it.
I remember the day we found out that we both knew what that was. Wow, I've never met anyone that knows what that is.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it, and then I explained it to him. He was like, "Yeah, that's Mystic Knights of Tir na nog." He was like, "Oh my god!"
Wow, who would have thunk
anyway,
it?
Don't have a segue for this, but we've come up to the hour now.
Yeah. Just over. Okay. You took us out. Do you want to take us, or you took us in? Do you want to take us out?
Yeah. So thank you very much for listening to the third podcast. Hopefully we'll have a name. Well, the goal is to have a name for the next one, and we'll see you then.
Peace.
Bye.